Bannockburn was a huge success for Scotland, but the English were still given the not treatment to peace terms, so Bruce and his men knew it was going to be a long drawn out affair. With this, Scotland was also skint and needed money to fund this war, but as it so happened to be, there was a hugely wealthy land bordering them that had so recently had its army destroyed, physically and emotionally, and practically was defenceless. He was going to make the English pay, literally, for their own defeat, and who better to lead these raids than the boogeyman of the English? James, with Edward Bruce and a body of seasoned veterans, crossed the border into Northumberland, and he struck down south, burning at the towns of Borough, Appleby and Cuxhawold. The people of Coupland feared James sacking and burning their town, so they paid him to leave them alone. They travelled down into the bishopric of Durham, where they forced a tribute from the clergy, ensuring that no harm would come to their farms or goods. They carried on as far as Richmond. There they gathered hostages to ransom. They then made their way back to the border, following the valley of the River Swale into the Pennies. From there, they crossed the River Eden and followed up to Carlisle. Then they slipped back over the border unopposed. This raid kept the Scottish war machine well greased, while also weakening their enemies. As this video goes on, England becomes just like an easy money farming glitch for the Scots, and they abuse this over and over again. With this raid, James did that good of a job, Bruce gave him the title of the Wardenship of the Border. Normally only 3 wardens were made for the East, West and Middle, but James was just that good. The race continued and the pattern emerged. The Scots would invade across the River Tweed, across Northumberland and onto Yorkshire, demanding money and stealing loot as far as possible. The English would try to give battle, but the Scots used strategy of lol no. Since there wasn't much to gain, but a lot to lose, the Scots would just not fight. Then the Scots would rapidly swing around and return north by the passes and river valleys and Penny's Hill. Every raid into England normally would look like a U-shape. In 1315, the Scots raid England again, and they entered the city of Durham on the 29th. They entered the city so stealthily, like Metal Gear Solid, that all the English were in their beds sound asleep. Bruce positioned himself at Chester Lee Street and sent James and his men to Hartlepool to cause mayhem and destruction. When James reached Hartlepool, many of the townsfolk fled onto boats and sat off the coast just watching James ravage their town. But strangely, during this raid, James took prisoners and a lot of townswomen back to Scotland. I guess kidnapping women running the family. By the 22nd of July, after raiding Hartlewood, James regrouped with Bruce and they made their way to Carlisle and began to siege the city. During the siege, James was sent with his men to raid southwest of Carlisle and raided the town of Egremont. James then regrouped with the ongoing siege of Carlisle. On the 30th of July, the main body of Scots attacked the eastern walls of the city, creating a diversion, while James and his men tried to scale the western walls. But despite their valiant efforts, it proved to be too much, and James was even wounded in battle. 2 days later, Bruce would abandon the siege, and this abandonment led the English to get a bit more confident and attacked the Scottish rearguard and managed to capture some Scottish knights in the process. Then, by the 14th of January 1316, James led a night assault by land and sea on Berwick, but the clear and bright night sky revealed the Scottish position and the attackers were repulsed, with James apparently being in the boat assault. With this, James left a body of Scots at Berwick to cut off English supply lines and went back to Ettrick Forest. Food was low on the borders, but inside Berwick it was dire. In October 1315, the governor of Berwick had written to King Edward II saying that his men were going to desert if pay and food wasn't delivered. Some rations did manage to get through the Scottish blockade, but it wasn't enough to make much of a difference. And on St Valentine's Day, 14th of February 1316, many of the garrison had given up hope and decided to go out and forage for food themselves. The English rode out under Edmund Kyle, who was a knight from Gascony. They rode up Teviotdale, which was large farmland, and were looking for any scattered cattle they could find. Sir Adam Gordon spotted some of the English foragers and left his post to inform James. He told James that the cattle thieves were a few in number. This was because he only saw a small fraction of them. James and his men marched out to find the English soldiers, and they found the English at Scaithmuir, a few miles north of the town of Coldstream. James suddenly discovered that these English cattle thieves were not just ordinary thieves, but instead well-armed English soldiers with double of his numbers. There were around 80 English soldiers with a few pages to help transfer the cattle, and only 40 men with them. So he made the smart decision to fall back to a nearby ford. Then he unfurled his famous white banner with 3 blue stars, which in medieval terms meant square go, or if you're English, come fight me. To flee on Scottish soil wasn't an option because James was built different. The English were starving and desperate men, so the fight would be brutal, and the English advanced on the Scots. Barbour himself describes the battle as, the Scotsmen bravely fought them back. There one could see a cruel fight, and strokes exchanged with all their might. The Douglas there was full hard pressed, but with great valour he possessed. So lent his men courage, that no man thought of cowardice. The Scots hacked away at the English effectively, and was also fine-tuning his famous tactic of personally hunting down the enemy commander and killing him. He cut his way through to Kyo and engaged with him in singular combat in the middle of the bloody field. Kyo was a brave and competent knight, but he was no match for Douglas, who quickly dispatched him. The English, seeing their leader dead, began to rout, with many of them killed in the retreat. The capital was saved. From this time on, James would always go straight to the leader in a fight, and this is heavy foreshadowing for some of his more famous battles and campaigns. When Barbour wrote this poem, he had spoken to the men who had fought with James. They had all reported that James had said that the Battle of Skemuir was the hardest fight he had ever been in, on where men fought with no quarter, giving it their all. After this fight, James retired back to Ettrick Forest, and by this time the English were starting to gossip among themselves about James and his feats and this overwhelming victory against all odds. The men who had died in this battle were probably the lucky ones, as it was reported that the English garrison still in Berwick were dying of starvation while at their posts on the walls. Also, Skemuir, Scafemuir, they're both the same to me. Shut up.